What's going on, everyone? Got a lot of updates here from people who have been sending in a lot of messages and requests. I apologize for being off the grid for a little bit. Was in Chicago and then Montana for an awesome podcast with Andy Stumpf, Cleared Hot podcast, which went awesome. So that's going to be coming out soon in two parts where we covered a lot of things. But I'll get into all that. But before I get into it, I want to know where you are tuning in from, city and state. Let me know. Love seeing where everyone's tuning in from, people across this great nation. And also, if you are tuning in from outside of this great nation, from your great nation, whatever it may be, wherever it may be, let me know what country, what province, what region you are tuning in from. We love all our international tuners. So I'm going to try to keep this brief, but we have a lot to go over, starting with the Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So, of course, this shooting happened as I was leaving on this latest trip to Chicago. And I can't even begin to tell you about Chicago. Most of you know what's going on there, but actually most of you don't actually know what's really going on there. So the information just came out that Mr. Jacob Blake had admitted that he did have a knife on him, and that knife that he had on him was located inside his vehicle. Apparently, for most of you have seen the video, and there's some details that a lot of people aren't talking about that just came out now, that a lot of things were being said that were just not true. People were speculating, and that's why we wait. So I'm actually kind of glad I had a little bit of a delay before talking about this Jacob Blake incident. And I want to direct everyone who saw the video of his mother speaking on CNN, which was phenomenal. What a woman. So the information came out that I know there was some question about why the police were called and what the police were doing there. Well, lo and behold, his ex-girlfriend apparently called 911 and said her ex-boyfriend, I'm not sure if she's the mother of one or more of his children. I don't know if they have children in common, but she called 911 and said that he was on scene at her home, at her residence, and he was not supposed to be there. I don't know if it's confirmed if she had some kind of restraining order, but according to the reports now, she told the police that he was not allowed to be there. So that's what prompted the initial police response. I know there were some people who were saying that he initially went there and he was breaking up a fight in between two women. But this has now come out. And mind you, they have spoken to Mr. Blake, and he has attested to much of what the report I read. This is coming straight from the DOJ. So the police were called because he was there and he was not supposed to be there, and it was called by that woman. Okay, not like the police were just driving around looking for someone to harass. They were called there. Second, he did attest that he had the knife, and he did admit to investigators he had the knife. So the knife was located apparently on the driver's side floorboard of his vehicle, where he dropped the knife after being shot by the officer. There were some reports that multiple officers shot. I kind of, by watching the videos as a firearms instructor and as someone who knows shooting and shoots quite a bit, I was able to tell that it appeared that only the one officer was the one that shot. That was my speculation by looking at that video, and it ended up being a correct speculation. Only that one officer you saw grabbing his shirt was the only officer that fired those 7 rounds. He apparently fired the rounds, of course, close range, thinking that Mr. Blake was going for another weapon in the car. Now, the part where the police say that Mr. Blake said he had a gun in his car and he was going for the gun. That was speculation too. I don't know if that's been confirmed. What I do know is confirmed is that there was no gun in his car. So whether he said that to, because he was, worked up and he wanted to maybe scare the police or whatever, whether he said that or not, I don't believe he has admitted he said that. But apparently that was something floating around that he said he had a gun. So he had the knife. That's confirmed. He admitted he had the knife and the knife was found. But I know there were some reports saying that he, after being tased and the taser didn't work and he still had the knife and they were saying, drop the knife, drop the knife. He did not drop the knife, and rather he said, apparently, allegedly, he had a gun and he was going to go get it. And that's why the officers followed him around to the driver's side of the vehicle. So I'm sure more will come out on that. But there obviously the investigation is still ongoing. But of course, the city's on fire. Properties being destroyed. Property owners are being assaulted and beaten. Vehicles burned, stores burned, and it's just a mess. Now, his mother was on CNN with Don Lemon, and I watched the entire interview. What a phenomenal woman. And was denouncing the violence and said that don't burn things and throw bricks and destroy the city in my son's name, because my son wouldn't want that. Our family doesn't want that. That is not the response we want here. That is not how my son wants his name attached to violence, with throwing bricks and burning and looting. And God bless her, because I am sure that Jacob Blake, as he is in the hospital recovering, probably doesn't want people burning his own city down in his name after what happened. I'm thankful he's alive. I'm thankful he's alive to, see his children. And reports are saying that he is temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. I don't know if that's permanent, temporary. I don't know. But thankfully he's alive, because no one wants to see someone lose their life with an incident like that, making a bad decision, and his children were there. No one wants to see that. So I'm thankful. I know a lot of people are putting hateful things out there, saying like, too bad he didn't die and things like that. There's no place for that. That's completely uncalled for. And you know what? No one's perfect, right? We've all done stupid stuff. We've all made mistakes. And this is something that I'm sure he's going to think about for the rest of his life, and his children will obviously recall for the rest of their lives. So, but that being said, it's too late. By the time the information came out that he admitted to investigators that he did have a knife and he did not drop that knife, the city was already burned to a crisp, and that was it. So I urge everyone, I'll try to post a link below, I urge everyone to watch the video interview between Don Lemon on CNN and his mother. Once again, just a class act woman. And, she made a lot of good, strong statements about the incident. And one of the things she said was, people need to wait before all the details come out from the proper sources before picking up a brick and throwing it. I mean, I don't know if it gets any more real than that. The mother of this man who was shot by the police 7 times in the back is sitting there saying, wait for all the details to come out from the right sources, not social media, not Twitter, from the proper sources before you throw a brick. And even after the details come out, you shouldn't be throwing bricks in my son's name. So my hat's off to her. What an awesome woman. That being said, we're going to wait for more details. Now, the other incident that someone shared with me that I didn't hear about, I've been traveling. I've been in 4 different states in the last few days, talking to many people on the street. I've been talking to police. I've been talking to people on the right. I've been talking to people on the left. I've been talking to people who are, support of Black Lives Matter. I've been people who are in support of these riots stopping. And no one heard of this story. It was a story that occurred in South Carolina. And in South Carolina, a stepfather was pulling into his daughter's driveway when he was rear-ended by a vehicle. And subsequent to the rear-ending, the driver of that vehicle got out and executed the father and the daughter, who was outside, happened to be outside on the front lawn, executed them on their front lawn. So that was something that I found shocking, that 2 American citizens were executed on their front lawn in a U.S. state, South Carolina, and this did not make national news. How in the world? So the shocking thing was, people from South Carolina were saying how they live in South Carolina, some people not too far from where it occurred, and they said they hadn't even heard about it. They had no idea that it had happened. How are we in a society today? And this is my question to every American. Once again, I don't care who you're voting for. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what gender you are. How is that not a concern for every red-blooded American in this country to not take pause and say, how are 2 people executed on their front lawn following a minor fender bender, and the news doesn't talk about it? No one in this country knows about it. To me, I feel like that is a national news event. That is a national news story. That's not a regular burglary or crime. That is not your everyday crime. This is a horrific crime, a horrific tragedy, and people in the state in which it happened, the media didn't even put it out there. How in the world is that possible? Yet, you have things that happen across the country involving people who are, let's say, for lack of a better term, not the most upstanding citizens, and they get in conflict with the police, whether they're fighting with the police, trying to take a weapon, they're not listening to the police's commands, resisting arrest, obstructing, whatever. And there's an incident involving the police and them, and it is riots, burning, national news, international news. But a young girl, 21, her stepfather are executed on their front lawn, and people who live in the state in which it occurred didn't even hear about it. That is disgusting. And that should have everybody in this country worried. Now, I know we posted the link to the story, and the reaction has been incredible. And people are talking about the race. And it's not about the race. It's not about the skin color. It is about what happened. And that is the problem we have in this country. Because people are looking at things, and if the races of the people involved are a certain way, it becomes a national headline. But if the races of the people involved are another way, nobody hears about it. Nobody heard about the black officer who had to tase, and then when the taser didn't work, subsequently shoot with his gun a black man who was attacking him. Nobody heard about it. We posted that video, and people were like, when did this happen? Is this an old video? No, it just happened. Where did this happen? Did this happen like even in this country? Yes, it happened here in this country, not months ago, days ago. But no one heard about that story. There were no riots, there were no looting, there were no fires, because why? Because the police officer involved in that incident was a black man, and the suspect who was trying to attack and kill this officer with a knife was a black man. Nobody heard about it. Nobody heard about it. No one even knows it happens. No one is calling for that officer's name. Nothing. And on top of it, nobody cares about the man who got shot. Whereas if that officer was white and the suspect, the black man, remained as a black man, you would have celebrities tweeting about it. You'd have NBA players kneeling. You'd have NFL players trying to put that man's name on their shoes and all this stuff. But no, the victim of that incident, although he was attacking a police officer with a knife, got tased and got shot, bad idea. But had that officer been white, he'd be almost being pushed to hero status. And there'd probably be rioting, burning, looting, craziness. But no, there's nothing. You most likely didn't even know it happened. You look at what happened with Mr. Jacob Blake, and you see an incident, an unfortunate incident. We all make mistakes. We all have our moments where we act out of rage in the heat of the moment. Mr. Blake was there fighting with his girlfriend. The police were called. He was probably upset. We've all had spats with our spouses. He was probably upset. The police were called. They were trying to talk to him. He brandished a knife. He was angry. Okay? Unexcusable. But it happened. He brandished a knife. They told him to drop the knife. They tased him. The taser didn't work. He got even more upset. And he said, F this. I'm going to my car to get something, allegedly. And what happened? He got shot. Right? Yes. Had the police arrived to the scene and after his girlfriend called the police on him and said he doesn't belong here. This Mr. Jacob Blake doesn't belong here, and I want him removed from my property. And the police arrived and said, listen, Mr. Blake, your girlfriend called, and you guys are in a fight, but you don't belong here. There's a restraining order. She doesn't want you here. We need you to leave, man. We need you to leave. Okay, we're going to just run your name, make sure you don't have any warrants, and we're going to let you get out of here. You got your kids in the car. Let's go. And if he just said, okay, here's my license, check my stuff, whatever, and said, this is BS, whatever, these are my kids, and he just went on his way. Maybe he would have got locked up for a warrant, and maybe he would have got ROR'd, and he would have been able to just, an hour later, he would have been driving home. Okay? With a court date. Possibly. I'm not sure what the warrant was for. I don't know if it was something serious or not. But most of the time when you have a small warrant, the people I would arrest would be back home or in their car an hour later, okay? Because they get ROR'd and that's it. But here, he chose to take a different path. He was upset, he was emotional. Whatever reason he chose to take that path, he did. And it ended very, very badly for him, okay? And I speak this to young men, not just young black men, but young men across the country. Curb your emotions, put it aside, let the police do their job. It's not worth your life. You see what is happening in this world today. Cops are on edge. There's that 1 or 2% of cops that probably are racist, right? And are already kind of looking at you crooked. Which isn't right, but you got to accept the reality. There are things in this life that are wrong and that are not right that I experience on a daily basis, and I get mad about them because I know I'm experiencing that only because of the color of my skin. But I have a choice to act accordingly or act out. That's my choice. And every day it happens to me, I have to make the choice to act accordingly and not flip out and lose my cool. Because I know that if I flip out and lose my cool, the police might get called, and if the wrong cop shows up, then it's going to end very badly for me. So I understand that the world is a certain way, and every once in a while I'm going to run into a situation that rubs me the wrong way, and I just put my head down and I keep going and say, I'm not going to let that ruin my day. I'm not going to let that ruin my week. I'm not going to let that ruin my month. I am going to be bigger than that person, and I'm going to move past it. That's it. And you stay alive. So the young men and women out there, when you are dealing with the police, remember that. Okay. So we'll get more details on the Jacob Blake incident as they come out, and I will try to get that to you. Going back to the South Carolina incident, people were talking about the race. Yes, the man who executed the young girl, her stepfather, and shot a third person who I guess was just an innocent bystander, I don't know yet, is a black man, a young black man. And people were trying to make it about race, about him being a black man killing two white people on their front lawn, execution style. The race shouldn't matter. Yes, he's a black man that executed two white people on their front lawn in broad daylight and shot a third person. Reasons unknown. It would seem to be he, the young black man, rear-ended this guy. If anyone was going to get upset, you would think it'd be the guy who got rear-ended, not the guy who did the rear-ending. And nobody's talking about it. Now, people are mentioning the race of the man who shot and killed them. My stance is, it shouldn't matter. This should be a horrific national news story, regardless of the race of the shooter. Because as Americans, we should be appalled by anyone, human being, executing any other two human beings on their front lawn. Why didn't we hear about this story? Why didn't the media pick up on this as a national news story? Why did people who live in South Carolina not even hear about this story? How is that possible? Because I know everyone in South Carolina has heard the name Jacob Blake by now, right? Everyone's heard that name. We've all heard that name. You could be living on a rock and you've heard that name. But no one's heard the names of these two victims. And no one's heard the name of this young man who killed these two victims, executed them on their front lawn. Why is that? Now, people posed a question to me. If the races were reversed, do you think this would have been a national news story? I don't like to play into that. But to those asking that question, my honest response is yes. I believe if a white man got out of his car after a minor fender bender and subsequently executed a young black girl and her black father on their front lawn, I believe that would be a world news story, not just national. It would be a world news story. But you won't hear about it. You won't hear about that at all because of this situation. And that is the flaw of our media, and that is the flaw of our nation. We are picking and choosing the validity of incidents to be concerned about. The media is based solely on race, not based solely on human being behavior. Because human behavior should dictate that no human should be executed on their front lawn with their daughter by any other human being, race, gender aside. But we are living in a country now where crime, how horrific a crime is determined by the race of the parties involved. And if they are not very specific, no one hears about it. The media will not tell you about a horrific incident like this because the accused is a black male and the victims are white males. But if the roles were reversed, you surely would have heard about it. I agree with the people who make that statement. And I think most people living in this country right now that have their head screwed on right would agree that if the races were reversed in this incident, it would have been a national news story. I agree with the people who say that. Is that right? No, it's not right. It's wrong. But I agree with the people who say that. They're not wrong. They are not wrong. And this is why, forget about contacting politicians, right? We should be contacting our media networks and asking them, why are you not telling this story? Why are you picking and choosing based on race what stories you are going to tell and share with the people? Because I don't care if the actor was Asian and the victims were Jewish. I, as an American, would want to know what the hell happened in an incident like that. Because if it happened there, it can happen anywhere. And I want to know about it. And I want to know if justice being served. I want to know everything about that. I don't care if I don't live in South Carolina. I'm an American. And that should not happen on American soil and no one knows about it. Not okay. That's not okay. But you have the media jumps on an African-American man fighting with the police and then getting shot by the police. The media jumps all over that. All over it. All over it. Before any of the details even come out. They are there with the news vans, the cameras, it's going out, and that's it. The riots begin. The riots begin. They are all over it. So shame on the media for that. I will end on this. About a month ago, a young 7-year-old boy, and for this I want everyone to listen very carefully. If you've ever had a child, you've had a niece or a nephew, a young 7-year-old boy. And I never asked for you to hit the heart, but I want you to hit a heart. A young 7-year-old boy named Zamar Jones in Philadelphia was playing with toys on his front stoop. 2 black men got into a shootout in the street, and one of the stray bullets hit Zamar in the head and killed him. Days after that incident, no one had heard about it. Nobody was talking about it. A 7-year-old little baby playing with toys in front of his house. Little black boy. 7 years old. This little boy was known in his neighborhood for going and getting groceries for some of the older people and helping adults out and always trying to lend a hand in the neighborhood. This little boy said when he grew up he wanted to be a police officer. Shot in the head and killed by 2 black men having a shootout in the street. Days after it happened, there was no GoFundMe. There was no media outrage. There was no media coverage. I spoke to people in Philadelphia where it happened, and they're like, I didn't even know that happened. What part of the city did that happen in? I said, are you kidding me? I didn't even know it happened. 7-year-old baby. Bullet to the head. Can you imagine what his mother had to go through? I spoke to his mother. I spoke with his mother multiple times. So after I saw that there was no GoFundMe, after I saw that there was no celebrities talking about it, after I saw LeBron James and no other athletes were talking about it, saying they were going to put his name on their jersey, no politicians were kneeling, wearing scarves, nothing was being done. For this little boy, nothing was being done. So I started a GoFundMe for him. I started the GoFundMe, and I started putting it out on social media. I shared it with some of my friends. I shared it with my friends who play in the NFL. I shared it with some of my friends who are in other sports-related leagues. I shared it with everyone I knew. We put it on Facebook. We put it on Instagram. I talked about it on YouTube. And after people started sharing it, and the message started spreading, we were able to finally raise a little over $72,000 for his mother. I spoke to his mother multiple times on the phone. We texted back and forth. And she was, of course, beside herself because she was a mother burying her 7-year-old child with a bullet in the head. And I asked her, I said, how has the outreach been to you? And she said it was quiet. A couple people locally reached out at first, but that was it. $72,000 I was able to hand to his mother, which will never replace her child, but will definitely ease some of the financial burdens that she's currently experiencing. And she was so thankful that somebody did something for her son, her baby. You have people who fight with the police, who do not listen to their commands, and end up getting shot, getting tased, getting whatever. And their GoFundMes get hundreds of thousands of dollars. Their name is being tweeted out by LeBron James and all these athletes and all these woke celebrities who are hiding out in their mansions behind their double security gate neighborhoods and their private security details. No one said a word. But when a grown man who knows what he's doing engages with the police, makes a bad decision, fights the police, he's touted as a hero. And the celebrities and the athletes are raising hundreds of thousands, in some case millions, gold caskets. Politicians kneeling in the halls of D.C., wearing flags, scarves, all this stuff. Yet all these politicians never said a word when the 7-year-old boy took a bullet to the head. If you're living in a country right now that has more empathy for the one situation with someone fighting with the police and has zero empathy for an innocent boy playing with toys that gets killed on his front steps, ask yourself, is that the kind of world you want to live in? Is that the kind of reality you want to raise your children in? Because that's the world we're living, whether anyone wants to believe that or not. And believe me, I did the job for many years as a police officer, and I see some of these police shootings, and I cringe. I cringe. And if you don't think I get a little nervous that once in a blue moon when I see those blue and red lights behind me and I get pulled over, if you don't think I get a little nervous, you're crazy. I get a lot of nervous. And I know, like my mom told me when I was 17 and I started driving, I'm going to keep my hands on the wheel. I'm going to say, yes, sir, no, sir. I'm going to put all the windows down. I'm going to turn the light on. Yes, sir, no, sir. Kind, respectful. Anything they tell me to do, you got it. And I go on my way. But I get nervous. Yeah. And I don't agree with all the police shootings that have occurred. I don't agree with what happened with George Floyd. I don't think anyone agrees with that. The guy was murdered. But what I don't agree with is little kids getting murdered and no one's talking about it. Innocent people on their front lawn getting executed, shot in the head, and no one's talking about it. All because it doesn't fit a certain media narrative. It's not going to get those clicks. That's sad and that's disgusting. And I don't think anyone watching this video right now, and I don't think anyone in this country as an American citizen can honestly say, that's the world I want to live in. Yep, that's the world I want to live in. Once again, I don't care who you're voting for in November. Doesn't matter to me. I'm in the middle. My feelings with politicians and politics, you don't want to know. Politicians on both sides. I have feelings about both sides. But I'm not going to share that because that's not what this platform is. But what I'll tell you is, political party aside, you got to want to live in a world where common sense is the prevailing factor. If not, we're all destined for a very bleak future. I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care how old you are. If that is the trend of our media and our society, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Socialist, I don't care. If that is a trend of our society, we are all in trouble. Because when that happens and when that proliferates, it won't matter who you vote for, what kind of red hat you wear, who you love Hillary, you hate Trump, this LGBTQ, none of that matters. If our world goes down that road, doesn't matter who you are, who you identify as, who you support, it all won't matter. Because nobody will be safe. Nobody will be safe. Black lives matter, blue lives matter, none of it matters. All lives matter, none of it will matter. None of us will be safe. Think about that. Most importantly, wear your mask. A deadly virus out there. The world is literally on fire. The country is literally on fire. Don't forget to wear your mask. This virus is deadly. You know, you see the people in the labs, they got the full suit with the oxygen on, whatever, because they don't want to get infected with the virus. They got the big suit, the Tyvek suit, hood. They look like astronauts and they're working with the virus in the lab. But as long as you just do this, you are A-OK.